Hi, this is Dr. MJ coming to you from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. This is the Women in Dentistry podcast, where we feature women in dentistry making waves and leading the industry through the next decade. I am your host, Dr. Mary Jane Hanlon, a former dental assistant, dental hygienist, and now dentist. I'm very pleased to introduce you today to Dr. Emily Letran. Dr. Letran is a serial entrepreneur, CEO of several multi-specialty dental practices, and a private coach to many professionals. As an international speaker, she has been on TEDx and shared stages with countless business leaders, including Sharon Lechter, co-author of The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kevin Harrington on Shark Tank, Dr. Howard Farran, Dental Town, and Linda Miles, the ultimate mentor in dentistry. She has been featured in several magazines: Dental Town, Global Woman, Top Doctor, The Profitable Dentist, See Beyond, as well as media, Yahoo Finance, Forbes, USA Today, and Fox. She is a contributing writer for Dental IQ, drbicuspid.com, and Dentistry Today. Dr. Letran is the author of several books, the founder of the nonprofit Smile Champions, a certified Colby consultant, a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and the founder of Exceptional Leverage Incorporated, a global coaching and consulting firm. She hosts her signature events, Action to Win seminar, in several countries, and shares her expertise in personal growth and business management through her Action to Win Academy programs. Dr. Letran has been knighted as a Lady of the Royal Order of Constantine the Great and St. Helen for her work in philanthropy, inducted as a Fellow of the International College of Dentists for her contribution to the dental community, and currently she enjoys practicing dentistry with her daughter in Huntington Beach, California. It is now my pleasure to bring you to my interview with Dr. Emily Letran. Emily, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, because I know you are one busy chick. I just see you all over social media. I know that you have a lot of things going on. I can't wait for you to share with the audience what it is that you are doing and how you came into doing that. So without any further ado, please just jump into your story, how you got into dentistry, and let us kick it off.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Doctor, for inviting me on here, and thank you for creating this platform so we can share our stories or our struggles and our insights so other people can, take a few nuggets from it, learn from it, be proud of whatever, they're already doing similar to me. So just real quick, my background, I'm actually originally from Vietnam. So I was born during the Vietnam War.
Wow.
The story is my mom was pregnant with me and running for bomb shelter, right? So I came out in 1968, a little bit after the Tet Offensive for the people, the history buff who knew that was one of the turning point of the war. I got my parents, we were in Saigon in South Vietnam. So the images of war and the experience of it was more like on TV, because they didn't quite get close to Saigon until the very last days. So in 1975, the communists took over, the war ended, the Americans left. And both of my parents were philosophy teachers. So once the communists took over, they became history teachers, because you can't teach philosophy. There's only one philosophy, Leninism. That's the only thing that existed. So they were teaching history, and life changed because now you're living under Big Brother, and I didn't realize any of this until I came to the U.S. Because you know how when you live in like a little bubble, right? Everything is filtered, everything is controlled. You think that's how life was. And in 1976, my mother passed away. So we live in an extended family. We have a 4-story home. There are 3 families there. Each family take a 2-bedroom story. So it's my dad and his 2 younger sisters. And a couple years after that, his youngest sister, who was a pharmacist, she decided to leave because there's all these changes going on in life. And they were drafting young men to go to war again. Vietnam was going to go to war with Cambodia in the west, and Red China in the north. And we always have this border, conflict for thousands of years. So when my aunt decided to leave, she was going to take my older brother and 2 of my other cousins from another uncle and her 2 kids. And so my dad told me to go with her. And, I'm a girl. I wasn't going to be drafted, but he said, you're the oldest girl in the family, so you got to go help your aunt. So that's why I left the country with my aunt. Um, and I left behind my dad and two younger siblings. And we went on that journey as the boat people. So we escaped at night. We were on the sea for 7 days. And we got to a Malaysian refugee camp, lived there for several months, and finally came to the United States. And so I tell people it's a good thing that I was young, so I didn't have that understanding that
Fear.
I should be afraid, right? That the
Yeah.
fear. Yeah, it just, oh, we're going. We're gonna meet dad later. And I didn't quite realize that until we go in the camp and you're surrounded, it's on a deserted island, so just refugees on there. And you're kind of looking out there and all you see is the ocean. And you don't know when you're going to see your dad again. And I mean,
Mm.
I grew up in the extended family, so my aunt was mom and dad. It wasn't just being thrown to my aunt, but you're lacking that part of
Right.
family. So when we came to the U.S., I was very driven. I was, gotta learn, gotta study, because of course we were taught that education is what's going to help us rise, and having a good job is going to help you make money, right? And with a lot of refugees or immigrants for that matter in this country, I'm sure a lot of us when we come, we always think about how to help the family back home. So that was
Sure.
my thing, right? So I did undergrad in 3 years. And I was always taking extra classes and I was trying to figure out what to do. And I was told by my aunt, you need to go into healthcare because that's the easiest way to find a job, right? This is back in the late 80s, 1988, 89. So I'm sure you remember back then there was a beeper. And I would hang out with these doctors' friends, and the beeper would go off, and everybody's like looking at their waistline to look for the beeper.
I remember them.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, I don't want that. I don't want to be interrupted, in my life. And I mean, I know medicine was difficult, and I graduated from undergrad, magna cum laude. So I had the grades, but for some reason I didn't like to see that, what, you're being controlled. Put it
Right.
that way a little bit with the beeper. So then I look into pharmacy, and I remember going to Save On and interview a pharmacist. And I asked him what he did, and he said he counted pills. And that sounded really boring to me.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. So one of my friends one day at a little party, he came up to me and he said, hey, I heard that you wanted to be a pharmacist. And I said, yes, I was checking that out. And he said, don't be one. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, because it's not the same as at home, right? Because back in, as I'm sure a lot of the third world country, the pharmacist is like the doctor. You come into the pharmacy and you say, I have a tummy ache, and they're going to give you, two pills. And so they kind of diagnosing and dispensing at the same time. So he said, it's not the same here. So I said, well, I don't want to be a doctor either, right? And so he said, why don't you look into dentistry? So I tell people this is my uninspired story about how I got into dentistry, because once I got in, I found out that a lot of my friends, they either have family who were dentists, or dentistry changed their life. They had something happen in their mouth and now it inspired them. I didn't have any of that. I had two fillings in my mouth. Uh, and this is kind of like my process of elimination. I ended up in dentistry. But once I got in, I realized that we all have that blessing of connecting to another human being, right? Which is not everybody can brag about that. And I mean, I could still tell you, and I'm sure a lot of us could recount the story of the first patient, right? That you treated. I remember, I tell you, I was doing a prep, and back then UCLA required you to draw blood on every new patient. So I sat the patient, during medical history, you
Right.
actually had to draw blood and everything. And I was like this, right? and and when I was done, the patient looked at me and said, no, actually, I told the patient, I said, are you okay? And the patient looked at me and he said, are you okay? Because I was
Oh,
shaking.
what a sweet patient. He didn't move and he just let you do your thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, in dental school, they know that you are students.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. That's the part where I really appreciate is you can interact with humans and you can be as human as you want, you know, emotional connection, or you can be really business oriented, right?
Mhm.
Like you need this. So, but you dictate. You get the chance to dictate and to do your thing. So when I came out, um, same thing. I was like, okay, gotta make money, gotta help the family. My dad had passed away at this point, so I only had my
Oh,
sister, my youngest sister back there, and my younger brother had escaped, just like us, but with a friend of the family. So I got married, I have three kids, and I remember one day watching this video from Dr. Woody Oakes because I started. I have this interest of, hey, let me learn something more about dentistry, and all this business thing. And I remember he specifically said, if you want to grow fast, you can have more than one office, right? So naive little me thinking, hey, I want to grow fast. Let me go buy the
another
office. So,
practice.
yeah, another practice. So I bought the second one and then I bought the third one. And then I learned about commercial real estate. So then I bought a building. So I bought a building. So I sold this practice and moved. I mean, it was like this whole thing started. And for me, it was the curiosity, right? What can I learn? Why are people doing that? Can I take that and apply it to my life? And then, it's always the you can say that it's the ambition, but for me, it's not the ambition like, okay, I want to be more, I want to be better. It's like, how much more can I do to influence or serve or affect other people? Right? Because in the four walls of our office, that's all we do. It's just in our office. When I learned about philanthropy and coming from that journey, having received a lot from the government and during that journey, one of the things I do is for example, free dentistry. So I participate in programs and I do free dentistry day in my office. And and for me, it's just so easy, meaning we already have the means to do so. We're already in the office. We already have the staff. We already have the facility. It's just one day or one appointment or whatever you want to do where you choose, you know what, for this, I'm going to give, right? And I think when you start thinking like that, you see other people who are doing the same thing, and then you learn, okay, what was their journey? And then you start doing more. So in 2015 I that's when I got this calling that, I really need to do more. And that's when I started getting certified in some of these coaching programs. And I started working with some of the world famous mentors. And I started my journey. And as part of that, had to become a speaker. I always tell people I had to become a speaker because when I was first told that, I said, I'm not speaking. I'm a dentist. I don't know why I should be speaking. I wrote my first book, From Refugee to Renaissance Woman. And my mentor at that time said, you got to speak because then people will know more about your book.
And
And that,
learn more about you too.
yes, but it takes a lot of courage, right? First
Right.
of all, do you want to share your story or whichever part of your story? And because then you really choose to be a public figure. And I mean,
Mhm.
you're already in that space, but I was in private practice. So I wasn't even teaching or anything. So all of a sudden putting myself out there, um, that's like a jump. It wasn't a little progression. And so from there, I get people inviting me to collaborate, and that's why I end up in multiple things. I tell people I think opportunities find me, and I just need to make a decision. Is it in alignment with what I'm trying to do, and would it serve more people? And to answer your question earlier about practicing, I am practicing. I got a little dentist who just graduated last year, my daughter. So,
Oh, how
yeah,
wonderful.
yes, she graduated exactly 30 years after mom from the same school.
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Good for
Yeah,
you.
yes, I'm having a lot of fun watching her. And
You can share a lot of wisdom too with that.
yeah, listening to how she talked to the patient and like, come here. No, no, you should say it this way. But you know what? Going back to what we said a little bit earlier, that actually add a little bit to the frustration because 30 years later, she's not learning a whole lot more about business, right? Um, and and so everything evolved. And I think for one, the world of business evolved so much that I think if you want to enjoy dentistry, you want to be a dentist, you really need to understand the business.
Mhm.
You have to understand it so you can delegate it, and then you go and you do your clinical thing.
Right.
But you just cannot not know it. And it's so frustrating that school, who has the first, you know, access or opportunity to talk to these young dentists, are not doing that. And that's why I'm all over the place.
Well, I
I want
can
people to
speak to
hear
that
me.
a little bit. And I
Yes.
think, pre-show, you and I were talking about the educational system a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And with my experience at Tufts, what I do know is that they have a set curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
CODA instructs us on what needs to
Yes.
be taught in a dental program. There's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of leeway, but I will tell you the amount of information that needs to be taught to these students in the regulations that are mandated by CODA doesn't leave us any time. So they're learning about business after school. They're learning about business from, mentors. There's not enough time in the day to add this curriculum in. Now, if you asked me, I would change a few things in the curriculum because I don't think
Right.
it's necessary, especially if you got it in undergrad, right? Why are we spending more time on this? And in fact, make it part of their prerequisite so it's not taking time up in dental school, and replace that time with a good business course, because you're absolutely positively right. They absolutely need to know what business is, because I made every mistake in the book when I first started, because I did a de novo practice, and
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had no idea that you had to have a license to have a business in downtown, whatever town I was in. And I didn't know you needed to go and have the radiation, the x-rays machines regulated.
Sure. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
every single
Yeah.
year. So,
Yeah.
little things like that I learned the hard way, because I learned. And, like I say to a lot of students, you got to read the rules and regulations of your state, because that's where you're going to learn what you have to do. It's non-negotiable. You have to do it. And that's one thing I didn't do. And that's, I'm ashamed to admit that, but quite honestly, I don't know that anybody graduates dental school and knows all the rules and regulations for their state.
Yeah,
So that's something
for
else that needs to be taught.
yeah, for me, it's because I always acquire practice. So that was in place, right?
Right.
I've never done de novo. So all of those things are in place. And of course, what you need is in that contract where they say, the seller need to give you all this. So I learned it that way. But I want to give credit to my school, UCLA, because they did have the business, probably called the management class. However, it was elective and it was during lunch. So how many dental students would sacrifice lunch? I remember running downstairs and getting a burger or something and just hurry back up to the room. And it's in a small room, so they already know not too many people are going to
Are
show
going to
up.
show up.
Yeah, of the 88 students, maybe you got 20 in there, and you hear bits and pieces of it, which but and that's my point. I think, we're already professional students. We're already overlearned, we're already overworked. If you add one more course and you make people take it during lunch and you just order pizza, um, I think that would do it. We will show up for pizza, as you remember.
I do remember. They'll
Right?
show up for
Yeah.
food every time.
We will show up for food and you teach us a little bit so we don't go out and not understanding. Like my daughter, she came out of school, she can name all the DSOs, right? Why? Because they there giving them food
Yep.
and say a thing or two. I don't have, I have my own opinion about DSO, but my point is, well, school can get strawman or some company to go buy pizza and just sit there and tell us a little bit more about business. So that's my thing. And I think to your point earlier, it's the entrepreneurial mentality. I'm going to do whatever it takes, right? And I think we learn that because we in so many things and we learn different rules and do it this way. They don't let you do it this way. Maybe you change it a little bit. You do it that way. But it's the fact that you want to do it. You have to get it done. Then you're going to think about ways. So and that's my point, because she goes to a lot of those mixer or whatever you call it, where I mean, yeah, they should be in the lab studying, but they will show up for food. So
They will.
so yeah, so give your little propaganda, whatever it is, and it might as well come from school. That's just my thoughts.
Now, tell us a little bit more how you've morphed into consulting, because I think there's a lot of consultants out there, but there's not a lot of dentists that became consultants. So that's special. And I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, if you would.
Yes. So, the very first time I worked with a consultant was back in 2010. It's one of those things where they fax you something in your fax machine, and then they ask some questions, and you're looking at it. So I think I went to an event, and then I ended up, working with this consultant, and honestly, he was teaching business 101. He wasn't a dentist. He was teaching business 101, and I was just like, oh, I want to learn this. I want to learn this. And this was 2010. So it was a good more than 10 years that I've been in practice, right? So I was doing things and I was learning from newsletter. I was, reading dental economics, dental town, your usual dentist stuff. But when you listen to somebody who are not in dentistry, obviously they talk about something different. So from there, I started following. I found out who his mentor was, so then I started following him. His name is Dan Kennedy. So he's the mind behind a lot of the marketing, the old school marketing way from
know
Linda
exactly who
Miles.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
long sales letter.
the long sales letter, but it's the verbiage, it's the mindset, right? Like if you actually believe in that, then this is what you will do. Anyway, so I was studying and we were going to conferences, and I remember because you asked me how I was sitting in this room in a conference with a dentist friend and his wife who was a pharmacist. And we're sitting there and somebody's on stage teaching, and we look at each other and we said, we're investing a lot of time and money into this. Maybe we should be teaching this, right? That way the three of us actually were just asking ourselves, why aren't we teaching this? Because we're learning this, we're applying it, and they're teaching you how to, to monetize it. So we're sitting here and we're thinking, wait a minute. So, and it's funny because the next person on stage was Brendan Bouchard, and he was talking about marketing. And so I think I bought the product from him. Then I went to his seminar, and at his seminar, he was talking about being a high performance coach.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's almost like, okay, they pointing the way, right? We were just thinking about this, and here's this person, teaching that. So I signed up. And so it wasn't something that was quite intentional. I tell people, I think it could be the teacher in me, because both of my parents were teachers. When I first came to this country, well, growing up, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. But when I first came to this country, school here is not the same as in Vietnam or third world country. The teacher don't have the same respect. I was horrified when I came in and I saw teachers start talking and students are still talking, right, in class. So I said, okay, I don't want to be a teacher because this is not my vision of a teacher. But as I'm doing the consulting and coaching now, I think that's the teacher in me, right?
Sure.
To share the knowledge and to challenge people. And as far as being a dentist, I plan to be in dentistry. And one of my exit strategy will be to do full-time consulting and coaching. And I think as a dentist, especially for me, because I learn all of these other things, I can see things from multiple perspective. Like I got certified as a Kobe consultant. So now I think I can see the staff better, their mentality. From the marketing, I can see how patients would think on what you say and what you do, right? And as a dentist, obviously, I can see how dentists think. I've had associates since 1999. I can see how the associates react or how the associate respond to whatever you want to do as an owner. So I think I have that blessing of having the knowledge and understanding it from multiple perspective, and I think I can solve a lot of things that people may have as a challenge in their office.
Well, you know what that comes from? Experience, right?
Yes.
Been there, done that, and you can relate to what they're doing. And maybe whoever your client might be, maybe doesn't have the same amount of experience that you have, and that's how you can provide value to them, which is exactly what we need.
Right. And but even the experience, sometimes you need that outside perspective.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of I remember having dinner with one of our friends, and you probably know her, Paula Parker, the wife of Steve Parker, the profitable dentist.
No.
The magazine. Yeah. So they took over the magazine from Dr. Oakes.
Oh yeah.
And she was ecstatic. This was maybe 2 years ago, sharing with me, I just learned that no is a complete sentence. You know? And I said, oh, I think I learned that a while back.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
Right. But I'm saying that is just a perspective, right? Like if your staff asks you something and you say no, and you feel like you need to justify 20 times why the answer is no, if you understand how to say it and you just like, you know what, this is why it's a no, and it's a no, and then you're done. The next time they approach you, it still is a no, right? I mean,
Right.
I think it helps when you have kids
Definitely.
right? It helps that. But so here's the thing. People do that with their kids and they go to the office and they just can't do that with their staff. So it is a mindset. It is how you do things, because you can't just be real strong with your kids and be, real stern, and then you go to the office and you're all over the place. This person wants it, you say yes. That patient wants that, you say yes. I think it's a mindset, it's a perspective, and it's a commitment to live to live your life that way, like to be strong-minded, to stick to to stick to your goals or your agenda, and not letting other people change it.
That's great. Now, how much are you traveling every year? Are you traveling every week? Do you travel once a month? I mean, how do you keep your balance?
Yeah, the traveling, sometimes it seems like Emily is never home, right? And my friend, I'm in the office, take a picture and say, today I'm doing dentistry, for those of you who wanted to know. It's actually maybe once a month, but it's not every month. And then sometimes it seems like once a week. I I would go and speak um, at conferences, and some of them are international. A lot of time it's on the weekend, so it never really impact what I do per se, because I'm in the office Monday to Wednesday, running 3 offices. My daughter work in 2 of them with me, and I have associates and specialists. The traveling is usually on Friday, like maybe I'm speaking on Saturday, so leaving Friday, coming back on Sunday. Sometime I make it into a trip. I got to, like I recently went to Istanbul to speak, and then there's a meeting of the leading ladies in dentistry in Berlin. So I made it into a 10 days trip, but my son just
Wonderful.
yeah, so my son just graduated from undergrad, so I took him with me, and I said, by the way, this is your graduation gift. And he said, this is a graduation gift that I didn't ask for. And here's the funny part. We met the doctor who was one of the organizer of the event in Berlin, and she asked him, how do you like the life of a dentist? Right? And I look at her and I said, Doctor, this is not the dentist. This is the English psychology major who just graduated. And she said, I know. I'm asking him how he likes the life of traveling with you, that you're speaking and you're involved with people. So she's very sharp, right? She's asking the kid, but it has a different intention. So when the kids were younger, I'm the one taking them to school. I'm the one pick them up pick them up from school, and then sometimes they go to the babysitter, sometimes they go to work with me, and then in the evening we go to Taekwondo. So I schedule my schedule around their schedule. My staff used to hate it. Every beginning of the year, I give them a list of all of the minimum days and all of the days that I need to leave early or I cannot be there. But then there are three of them. And at one point, three kids were in three different schools. So that was the worst year.
Sure.
But I scheduled like that. And then now everybody graduated. Two have a job. So one is doing work remotely. So now I actually have a lot more time. But I told my daughter in 12 months, I want to make her a real business person, right? So that's my commitment right now. She graduated last year, got her license, graduated in June, got her license in August from California. And I don't know what it is that she can practice in a lot of states. And I'm focusing on making her understanding business. And I think I think the flexibility you have comes from how strategic you are, right? And how much planning you do, so you know that you will have that time. But even with the planning, you got to be flexible. You plan X and then Y happen. You got to be flexible too, because otherwise, if you're real strict and then it doesn't work, and then you get frustrated, and then you say forget it, and then you're not going to do it anymore.
Really good, unbelievable career that you've had, and your goal is to exit within the next 12 months. Is that what you're saying? From practicing dentistry, not from everything.
Yeah, no, I plan to at least work one day a week.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I plan that. No, the 12 months is to make my daughter a business person.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
I was assuming that you were going to sit down and retire.
Yeah, it's so
Silly
funny.
me.
People were telling me, "So you're retired? How are you enjoying that?" I said, "Who told you I'm retiring? I'm trying to get this kid to run two offices."
There you go.
And it has different things. It has medical, it has PPO, it has cash, and she got to learn all that.
She does.
Yeah, she got to learn all that. I don't care what mode of business or what insurance you want to take, but you have to understand that it exists. That when somebody come in and try to compare you with the doctor down the street, because the doctor down the street is different, right? You have to know how to respond to that. And I think I'm lucky that I've been practicing. I have my own practices for 26 years, right? I have patients who were with me for 26 years because I recently sold that one of those practices. And I mean, in 26 years, people will come in, they have insurance, then they change job, they have a PPO, then they change job, they have an HMO, then they change job, or they lose job, they become a cash patient, and then they come in as a Medi-Cal patient, and then they got another job. So it's like, I'm just going to treat the person.
Right.
I'm not treating the insurance, but
No.
I do need to understand the insurance.
Without
because people will come in and they're going to request certain things based on the insurance that they have, right? Yeah.
So true. I'm going to switch gears, if you don't mind, a little bit and ask some personal questions, if you don't mind.
Of course,
they're not really invasive, but just some personal
No,
questions.
no, of course.
So tell me, what would be one thing that would surprise people about you?
It's very interesting. People, when they meet me, they say, "You're very serious." And I don't know why. And then I get on stage and people are cracking up with what I say. And then I come down, they go, "We never knew you have a sense of humor," right? And I said, "That's because you don't talk to me," right? So I think I actually have a very good sense of humor, very sarcastic. I think I got that from my dad. And I actually tend to lighten everything. Like if you come with a serious situation, of course, I'm going to acknowledge that. And I'm going to try to make it funny or just lighten it up. And I think most people don't see that in me. Like a lot of friends would tell me, "I'm sure you're the tiger mom." And I had to go read the book because I didn't know what that was.
What a tiger mom was, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a crazy mom, by the way. but for me, and again, I think because of my background, coming to the country and knowing that there's certain challenges and things like that, and then the coaching, training, and all the books that I read, what I do is I just expect people to do their best, right? And as long as they're not lazy, where they cannot get to whatever their potential is, I'm okay. Like I used to want all of my staff to be in A team players, right? And I still remember a couple of my friends who were coaching people were just cracking up at me and say, Emily, a C player will not become an A player. And I was just pushing people. I 1 year, I tell you, 1 year I said, okay, all of you guys, dental assistant, I give you 12 months to become an RDA. And I thought this is taking them to the A level. And the rumors behind me is she's just joking. She's not going to do that. Half of them went and became RDA. Now, my intention was let them spend the money, take the class, take the test. When they pass, I'm going to give them back the money.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like my requirement, right? But I'm not going to give them the money to go do it. I need them to
Right.
just do it on their own. There were two of them who never cared to go take it. And there was another person who took it and failed, right? So the 12 months mark came, I came in and let three of them go. People were in shock because by that time I say, I got to stand my ground. I said, you need to pass. So you have to pass. But it was back then, it was my belief that I can get people to that level. So the ones that didn't really care to go do it, I would never get them to that level anyway. It's just what I thought I could. So
I have to tell you, I think that was brilliant.
yeah.
That is the sign of an exceptional leader because you said what you needed, you expected it, and if they didn't follow through, you have to follow through. And you did exactly what an exceptional leader would do. So congratulate, good for you. So anybody that listen on out there, and if you have somebody that tells you to do something, you better think twice about it because I think more and more of us are getting to that point. I have had many conversations with my team in similar respect.
Mm-hmm.
And the last, the DSO that I just developed, if they didn't accomplish certain benchmarks, we had to let them go because everybody was expected to reach these benchmarks.
Right. And I mean, to be fair, of course, you need to give them the training and the tools. And so for me, I mean, we were already training them on the job. You know, for example, from a DA to an RDA in California, you need to know how to make a TEM, right? So they were already making the TEM. So now it's just a matter of go sign up for the course. Yeah, go exactly. And if you're not going to even care to do that, and of course, one limitation is only given twice a year, right? but I gave you 12 months, so you have. It's not like you can go do it all the time. So yeah,
opportunities to do it.
Yeah, yeah. You got to watch the deadline, and you got to sign up and all that. And so I think to get back to your to what you asked, I think a lot of time people think that I don't have a sense of humor because I sound so serious because I'm accomplishing these goals and I say I'm going to do it. But I don't think I would be myself today without a sense of humor. I think I would die.
Humor heals everything.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this or not, but there's been studies done that if you develop cancer, let's just say, there's a famous doctor, and I'm totally blanking on his name, famous doctor who was diagnosed with cancer, and he just stayed at home during his healing process and watched comedies all day long. And his cancer, he was 100% cured by the time they went back in 6 months to do his testing. So humor heals everything.
Yes,
and we need also a fair amount of it.
Yes. And like I tell people, I say, they ask me, how do you control stress? And I go, well, you're in between patient. Why don't you go and look at a funny video?
Yeah.
Right? Or it could be your favorite funny video. One of my favorite, I don't know if you've seen this one, is of a secretary. And it looks like an old day setting. And she had a computer monitor. So she's typing, and then she pushed the monitor like a typewriter, like an old day.
Yeah, the old day.
And the whole thing go, to the side. And that's one of my favorite video because it's funny.
Yeah, it's hysterical.
Yeah, she just did this and go, and then the whole monitor flew. And I tell people, do that. And they go, that's all you do? And I said, yes, because all I need is a little break from, I'm going from this room to that room. The staff are taking x-ray. There are plenty of people I know that they're on social media and they're trying to answer somebody's questions, somebody's challenge. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know what that does for you. If you should really be focusing on something else, right? Like you can do that in the evening or in the morning, but while you're in between patients, that's what you do, right? You do something just so you relax, or you go and you do some stretch, and then you just come back. And people ask me, how do you have so much energy? Actually, I have a seller one time, he was selling me his practice. And he go, come here. He's an older gentleman, and he go, what are you on? And I go, on what? And he go, what drug are you on? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, every time I see you, you have high energy. So what are you on? And I'm not on anything. The only thing
This is my
I'm on is,
personality.
yeah, just my personality, my perspective, what I focus on. And that's why I said it's more about the person, right? And that's why I love the coaching part, the high performance, which is you're really changing your person. I know people say you cannot change, but if you focus on certain things, like if you train yourself to look for the positive, right? If you change yourself to look for somebody who's not nice to you, but maybe you can find something good about them, and that's what you need to remember. Or maybe you can just train yourself to just walk away. You're going to be so much better than being frustrated with,
Exactly.
with a lot of the things going on around you. And yeah, so some people, so now for all the 18,000 followers of Donna Mary, Emily Letran has a sense of humor.
Very good. Very good. Now, one of the other questions that I always ask my guests is, you appear extremely confident. Obviously you've accomplished a lot of goals in your lifetime. You're very well poised in your speaking style. So when you reflect back on your younger days, and especially since you had such a traumatic childhood coming here, what do you think contributed to your confidence? Was it a person who guided you? Was it a philosophy that guided you? How did you become so confident?
Absolutely, it was a mentor. Yeah, so my first mentor is Sharon Lecter, and she's the co-author of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And actually, I'm going to be on her virtual summit later on today. And I would tell you, I was with her for about 3 years. And the first 2 years, when I look back, it was learning how to be courageous. It was learning how to have that confidence, because you have the confidence in yourself, right? Like you look back and you go, oh, I've done X, Y, Z. But when you're doing something brand new, you need somebody to push you and be there with you and tell you the truth, which is sometimes people don't have the courage to hear that. I would tell you a quick story. My third public speaking appearance was a TEDx. It is a small TEDx stage in Walnut, California. So when I got this opportunity, because a friend of mine recommended me, so then they just said, okay, you're on. So I was coaching with Sharon, and I told her, and I remember telling her, mom, because we all call her mom. It's a small stage, right? And there were going to be young people, and she go, I don't care if it's a small stage. It's a TEDx opportunity, and you're going to deliver. And then she asked me, and this is what I learned. I learned so much from her, and it's not, it's the understanding, right? She said, would you like for me to take a look at your speech? This is only a New York Times bestseller telling me to give her my script. Right? So I sent it to her, and it came back red. I totally red. So we were on a coaching call, and I said, Mom, this whole thing is red. And she said, I only change your words around. So just be prepared. Like just learn it and be prepared. So I learned how to deliver the speech. I actually practiced it in front of my kids. And when I was done, they said, they were on the bed, because I'm standing here because it's TEDx, so you don't have to move. I'm just standing here delivering the speech to them, and they go, Mom, they were in middle school. They go, Mom, your enunciation is wrong. Your pronunciation is wrong. Some of your grammar is wrong. So like they were giving me all these feedbacks. And now these are the kids that are born and grown up in the US. So of course they're better than me. And I go, you know what? this is very discouraging. I'm just going to practice in front of stuffed animals. So I got them out of the bed. I put stuffed animals in front of me, and I was talking to the stuffed animals. And that's how I practiced and went and delivered my TEDx speech, right?
And how did it come out? Probably
I
wonderful.
think it came out pretty good. I have a video of it on my website. But my point here is I knew I have a good speech. The content was from the heart because I wrote, the main content, and it was written it was polished up and edited by Sharon. I did my practice, and I tried to build my confidence because I didn't need the feedback that I wasn't that good. But the whole time I know that I have the support, right? And I'm doing something brand new. I've been doing dentistry for, by that time, I think maybe 20 years. I have never done a speech. I have never done a TEDx speech. These are all brand new. And I'm going to be up there and I'm going to be sharing my story, which people don't know, right? So I look back and I tell Sharon, you know what? I think for 2 years, I was paying you for courage. You know?
Well, whatever it took, I mean, obviously
Right.
it contributed to your confidence and your ability to do many things.
Right. And I think a lot of time people, it's very easy to say, hey, have your confidence, think this way, think that way. But you need that mentor. It's like if you're teaching a kid to ride the bike, right? You got to be running right next to that bike.
That's right.
So if the kid fall, he knows you're going to catch him or her. And I think sometimes we forget that, right?
So
We
true.
forget that. People forget when you did your first amalgam prep, we're going to say like operative prep, you needed somebody to look at it on the typodon and tell you that this angle is wrong and that angle is wrong. And then now I have people who just say da, 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 and they don't remember somebody taught you that the first time.
Right.
And I think that comes from me also, the background of having my parents as teachers. We have a Teachers Day appreciation in Vietnam, November 20th. And every year when I was back home and my mom was alive, the house would be filled with flowers. The students would come and give the flowers. To this day, there's a Facebook group of the students from that school. And if somebody mentioned either of their name, you would see a whole thread of people saying that they're nice, they this and that. And of course, my dad thinking out the box and saying stuff that sometimes he's not supposed to say, you know. And I think if you have the appreciation of what you've learned, you can grow more. If you have a mentor, somebody to help you, you just accelerate.
Absolutely. All right. So next, I want to know, what is the single best piece of advice you've ever received, and who was it from?
So I think one of my favorite actually come from Dan Kennedy, and it is to say it nicely, it would be to be authentic, right? To be yourself, to really let people know who you are. He's one of those people that, because when he speaks or when he coach, because right now I'm actually a private client of his, it's, you know what, just go out there and do it. Just go out there and say it. And you don't have to elaborate on it, but you need to say it to be authentic. I'm just going to go there. So 2 years ago, I got divorced. And it was long overdue because he's been cheating. But I said, I'm going to stay in the relationship because I wanted my kids to be 18. I did not want to deal with child custody. I've heard plenty of stories, and I'm so much about my children that I'm not going to let him be able to leverage that against me if we were to share custody. So it was a very long, at least 5-6 years wait until, from the time I say I'm going to do this until the time,
you were able to do it.
I wanted to do it. And when I shared this with Dan, I said, "Is this something that I talk about?" And he said, "Just get it out there." Right? And that was a personal advice to me. But I mean, he's always been preaching it, that you want to be authentic, and you want to share the information, because they say that if you don't write your story, somebody's going to write it for you.
Write it for you. That, I was just going to say, it's
Yeah.
part of your story, and your
Yes.
story makes you authentic. So it is part of your story, and you're not the only person that gets divorced. And,
Mhm.
the way you handle it is everything. And I think,
Mhm.
making the decision, I made the same decision when I got divorced. I made the same decision. I'm going to stay until my daughter is done with high school and is in college. And it wasn't until her second year that we ended up getting divorced. And it made all the difference in the world, because I think as younger children, it makes everything fall apart for them. And it's just not worth it.
Yes.
They need to be
Yes.
adults. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm so glad you share that, because when the kid was 17, I tell all three of them, okay, mom's planning a divorce. So it's gonna happen next year. And then next year was COVID.
Oh, geez.
And then so I actually waited 2 more years because he could not move out of the house. It was COVID.
Yeah.
So he stayed inside the house, and the kids, everybody was stuck at home. And that was the thing. I don't want to deal with that while the kids were home.
Yeah.
And so the majority of people, the majority of the world doesn't even know that happened, because I don't bring my private, life
Into your
there.
public life.
What To your point, to tell your story. Yes, I will show off my kid won taekwondo. I will show off my kid is moving to college, but I don't need to talk about everything like sometimes people do, right? Because I'm writing my own story.
That's
And it's
right.
not all about success. It's just what I choose to share. If you ask me directly what kind of crap you went through, I will tell you, right? But whatever I put out there is intentional, is what pains me as, the best mom in the world, which is what what I brag with people about, because I know all the things that I've done for my children.
Right.
And so I think to say that, to be authentic to the point where it's in alignment with you. It doesn't mean go tell everything. It means go share, because I think if I can share something to other people and I know it's going to help them,
Yep.
then it's great. But I
Perfect.
don't need to share the 10
All the
years.
minutia.
Yes, yes, because it doesn't help anyone. And I
Mm-mm.
think we learn that when we write, right? Like when you're writing a book, and I've been very blessed, contributing in books and writing books, is because when you're putting words on the paper, you need to say, do I actually want to say this or not? Because people can read this over and over and over again. And you learn to really look at yourself a lot.
Right. Who in dentistry inspires you today? Is there anybody that you can think of right off the top of your head that
Dr.
inspires you?
Farran, Dr. Howard Farran,
Mhm.
yes, he just say what he wants. And I have the privilege of actually sharing stage with him. And when my daughter took a gap year, so we were both speaking in the Caribbeans. And when he saw my daughter, I told him she's applying for dental school, right? And the first thing he told her was, go specialize.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Because you know how the thinking of you're a specialist and you could make more money and you do better and things like that. But it was interesting because he was so direct, right? And I made her sit in his lecture. Like you can go on the beach, but for Dr. Farhan lecture, you are sitting here. And the kid was taking notes like crazy. And so he's a pioneer, right? He started Dental Town back in, I think, 94 or 95, because I graduated in
Mhm.
93. And then Dental Town came out shortly after that. And, I read what he writes, I read his books. He invited me on his podcast, and it was so funny. They say, okay, send 3 questions to Dr. Farhan, so he's going to ask you. And he never really did ask the 3 questions. He was talking to me about business, and then he said, "Okay, so I understand that you have, HMO and mixed practice." And I said, "Yes." And he go, "How do you upsell?" And I'm sitting there going, uh, you know, so he's so direct,
Right.
but I think he asked the questions that matter.
Makes you
Respect,
think about things.
yes, and I
Yeah,
respect that. And yeah, so he's Dr. Dr. Varan's my hero in dentistry.
that's awesome. All right. Have you ever had an aha moment when you realized, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I should be doing?
Yes, like I mean to go back to the other story, the previous story that I told you about deciding to do coaching.
Mm-hmm.
When I, like everything was pointing to it's time to become a coach, right?
Sure.
It's time to share that knowledge. And then the interesting is I took a Kobe, and there's a Kobe A, Kobe B. So I took the Kobe as a coach, right? So the Kobe as a dentist, it came out as a quick start, which explained why I buy multiple practices and I'm jumping from chair to chair and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing all these things, right? But when I took it as a coach, it came out the same, right? Also as a quick start, but all of these things about the coach, because as a coach, sometimes you have to think fast, right? Your client say something, and what are you going to say back, right? I mean, one time I had a client who we got on the coaching call and she said, "My husband died." That was how she started, and I felt like all of the training is how I'm going to handle this with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
To talk her through this. I mean, I'm not a coach in that sense, but it's the knowledge and the understanding on how to connect and feel her emotion and all that. And and so when I took the Kobe as for the coaching business, it looks like it fits me well. So the aha moment was, you know what? This is what I'm supposed to do. This is where I can use my natural talent, and this is where I should give it my time
Mm-hmm.
and my effort. And it's a validation, but it didn't come from a mentor. I mean, obviously the mentor already see that in me, but sometimes you need a little scientific validation to let you know that you're doing the right thing.
Very good. Do you have a personal motto or mantra that you live by?
Yes. So Dr. Robert Schilling, tough times never last, but tough people do.
I love that.
Yes, and that is one of my mantra when things get rough. I think as we get older, have lived, we believe in faith a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's hard to convince a young person that, but I tell you a story. About 10 years ago, I went through a lawsuit, and it was a lawsuit against an HMO,
Mm.
a small HMO in California. And I've already been a dentist for about 20 years or so. All of a sudden, we got this lawsuit, like business came to a halt. All of these things was falling apart, and I could not talk to anyone. I could only talk to the lawyer because I'm in the lawsuit, right? So just a lawyer. So my husband knew, two office managers knew, and that's it. And and so it was time when I actually started wondering, do I actually know how to do dentistry? Like, why am I getting myself into this? And that, by the way, has nothing to do with clinical. It was like some personal thing because this HMO was connected to a union and all that. It was like
Oh my gosh.
politics and things got mixed up.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and in hindsight, I could have dealt with it better. But anyway, it's passed. I won the lawsuit, but that was
Congratulations.
5 years of hell, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah. So the mantra, like I just said, it's like I'm thinking this cannot last forever.
Yeah.
I just need to figure out how to outlast this thing, right? And I remember one of the gentlemen in arbitration, he looked straight at me and he said, "They are taking you down. They are going for your bankruptcy. So it is best that you guys all walked away." And I said, first of all, I didn't do anything wrong. Secondly, this is all about, harassment, political, and everything like that. And I said, I'm standing on my ground,
Good
right?
for you.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when things like that happen, and you can have, the courage to just pause and say, "Hey, wait, I went through this before, and I went through that before. Um, I'm gonna survive this, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And if it's the first time, because I'm sure there's a first time when, somebody's in a lawsuit, you just make sure that you have the right support team.
Right.
And because I think a lot of time what happened with people is they felt, you know what, I've been strong, I've been successful, and I need to be able to do this
Mhm.
on my own. But you need somebody to support you. And during that time, I was working with this consultant that I mentioned earlier. I was looking forward to every month going to that meeting because that's when I can just do laser focus. I'm just going to control what I could control
Well,
because everything else I just couldn't. I have no control over other things, and I got two other offices to run, but the offices are kind of all related because the same kind of manager, and then there's some staff that I share with specialty, so it's all together, and so for me at that time, it was I'm just going to take it one day at a time because this difficulty or this challenge will pass. And I think it's the same thing with the divorce, right? Um, Actually, that came up in my head during that lawsuit because it was just aggravated. It was very clear to me that the person was so selfish that going forward it's not going to work.
right.
Because for him, it was like, you're the one that got into a lawsuit. Why did you need to have three officers instead of one? And, this is your staff. And why didn't you train your staff? And it's just like, hey, this never came up when I just brought home money, right? But when this happened and all of this, so I remember about 3, 4 years into that lawsuit, one day I took out a piece of paper and I wrote down, I am done with this marriage. And I fold the piece of paper and I put it in an envelope, seal it up, and stick it in a cabinet. And as far as I'm concerned, I was divorced as of that day, right? Mentally. Now it was just, okay, when will Austin turn 18? And just waiting for that day. And during that time, just maintain composure and,
And just do your life.
just do my thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you had a piece of advice for someone young getting into dentistry, male or female, it doesn't matter, what would it be for them?
Yes, my one piece of advice is to be a student.
And always learning.
Yes, to be always learning because I think, as you know, a lot of us when we got out of dental school, we ready to roll, and we are actually not ready, not ready to roll.
You're always practicing. Yeah.
Yes, and there's so much to learn. We had a discussion earlier about school doesn't have the time to equip us with all of that, right? So if we didn't know that, we would think that we're ready.
Right.
And with social media, you're going to have people who say, you're ready to go. And there's people over here say, you're not ready to go. My advice is just be a student. I don't care at what level you are. Sometimes I talk to doctors and they've been working for a long time and now they want to exit. They have no idea how to do an exit. So they got to be a student on how to exit. I bought and sold practices, of my own. I know how to exit. I know how to exit a practice. So, and it just comes from experience. But what I'm saying is at whatever level, at whatever stage in your life, if you just tell yourself, you know what, I want to be a student. I want to be listening to things. I do want to filter what's being told to me. And of course, listen to the right people, right? Like I would listen to Howard Farran because he built that dental tower empire. He's done something right in his time, right?
You're as successful as the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're listening to people that are successful, you will be successful. If you don't, if you're spending time with people that are not successful, you're never going to be, well, I'm not going to say you're never going to be successful. It's just going to take you longer.
Right. It's just going to be harder. And as young doctors, sometimes you don't know though, right?
Right.
You don't know, like if I'm here and I'm saying da 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 da, and you listen to me, well, I think by power of association, if Dr. Mary is interviewing me, I'm probably okay. But if you're just going to go look on social media and with all these people saying all these things, and sometimes you don't know the backstory.
Right.
Or I may be saying nice things about you because I'm your client, that kind of thing. You don't know that, so just be a student. When you take things in, just look at it, make sure you understand it. Really, make sure that it makes sense. Is it common sense that you should be doing certain things? And I challenge a lot of people, like even my daughter. She say, "Okay, I'm going to do this," and I say, "Well, okay, explain to me why you're doing that." Because if you can't explain it, it didn't really make sense to you. And coming from UCLA, I know she has all that knowledge,
Right.
for that clinical part. She just need to make sure she take all of that in before she make that decision to treatment plan that or cut the tooth a certain way or whatever it is. And I think to have the belief that you actually know more than you think you do,
Yeah.
right? From all the learning, but at the same time, be a student,
Be open,
be open. Exactly.
open-minded. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
All right. So from where you are today, looking back, what is the one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
This is actually one of my favorite question when people ask me that.
Mm-hmm.
And the advice I would give myself is to slow down.
Really?
Yes, I think I'm always on the go, 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 go. And I've been very blessed where I can actually achieve whatever I say, I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Many years ago, I went to a undergrad get together, and they were showing a slideshow. And I'm sitting there watching the whole slideshow, and I saw me in two of the slides and the photos. And I asked my friend, "Hey, what happened? Like, how come I don't see myself?" And they go, "Well, you weren't at the party. You weren't at these fun things, right?" Now, I don't regret having finished undergrad in 3 years.
Right.
Phi Beta Kappa, magna cum laude, all that stuff. I don't regret that. But I think if I were to advise myself, it would be, well, that Friday, yes, you could have gone to that party.
So
you
slow
know,
down, enjoy, and smell the
yeah,
roses.
to slow down and enjoy that, because knowing me and how I think, I can pack things in, right? Really fast. Like we were in Istanbul, and after the first day, I go, okay, I think we're almost done with Istanbul. As far as all the major sightseeing, uh, because I know I can do that. Now, what I need to do is force myself or tell
To
myself, no, when
enjoy
you get,
it.
yes, you need to linger a little bit longer. You need to do this and that. And I think, because as you know, time passed by so fast,
It
right?
does. Yeah.
And when you look back, I mean, I'm so blessed that I enjoy all of that, even the lawsuit, right? Because I tell people the best thing that came out of the lawsuit was my decision to get divorced.
Yeah.
So it helped me make a life decision. So
Life-altering decision.
yes, and I think that's great. It actually helped me understand that, where they say, um, trust but verify.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was part of the issue, because the staff were doing something, and they've been working with you for 10 years and they have experience for 20 years. Do you check everything they do? No, you don't. Right? And when it comes time for somebody to scrutinize things, you look at it and you go, oh, she should not have done that. But no, I did not instruct her to do that. Right? Like things where that sometimes you have to check things. Sometimes when you're overconfident, you have a good team, you think your team can handle everything. And then when you look at it, you go, no, I really should have been there.
Yeah.
I really should have checked this. So I say, for me personally, when people ask me that question, it's always to slow down.
Okay, last question, and it's got two parts. First, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is peace.
Ah, very good.
Yeah, I think if you're very successful in the normal term, and you have this and that and all that, but you're constantly working at it and worrying about things, I don't know if I would call that successful. I think I call success peace, in the sense that whatever you accomplish, you're good with it,
All is well.
right? And actually, that's my definition of happiness also, is actually to have peace.
That's awesome. Now, last question, and I want you to understand that there's specific emphasis on this question. Do you feel successful?
I do.
Excellent. Excellent.
I do. Yes, I do, because I do have peace. I've accomplished what I want to accomplish. I set goals, and I'm on track to get to the goals.
Mhm.
my friends laugh at me all the time. Okay, you said you always wanted to have a dentist, so now you finally got one, right? Like it seems like what I plan to do, obviously within reason, right? What I planned, what I want is something that I know that can be done. Sometimes it involves other people, like my daughter, right? Like how do we get this daughter to become to become a dentist? But I mean, how much more successful can you be? I think when you have your business, you have your kid in your business, and you have friends and family and people who support you. You have people who
I mean,
recognize you
health.
for
And
what you've
health.
done.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and you have health, and you can. Well, I'll share with you one thing. Brendan Bouchard say he works with a lot in his training. He worked with a lot of difficult situations, and one of them are terminal patients. And he said everybody have the same regret, which is I should have done this, right?
Mhm.
So he said, well, why don't we right now just think if we were to die today, what would be the regrets? And then why don't we start living our life so we won't have these regrets?
Absolutely, positively.
Yeah, and I think if we were to ask ourselves that question, it's not going to be about your office
No, no,
or
I agree.
what, right? It's going to be, hey, I should have gone visited, my kids or whatever, very personal stuff. But
Exactly.
what if we make that what drive our day,
Every day,
right? Every day.
every day.
And yeah, then you can be at peace. Hey, you know what? I already know whatever is going on, but I'm already living it as in if I die today, I'm
Everything is
gonna,
going to be fine.
yeah, everything is gonna be fine because I'm fine with it. I have peace with that. And I thought that was very, very,
Very insightful.
very insightful. And
Mhm.
and at the same time, it's so simple,
Yeah.
right?
Oh my gosh, I have totally enjoyed our conversation, Emily. It's so nice to
Thank
finally
you.
meet you in kind of person,
Yeah, yeah.
virtually. But, I've seen you on social media for so many years and you're such a vibrant personality. So it's really been great to spend some time with you. Thank you so much. The audience has got a lot of pearls to take with them today for sure. So if somebody is interested in coaching, if somebody is interested in getting in touch with you, how do they reach you?
Yes, what they can do is they can go to coachroi.com. So the word coach and the word ROI.com.
Nice.
There's a little video on there. I'm talking to my friend Ron, and we're just talking about how dentists can get better
Mm-hmm.
and what's holding them back. Just from a general perspective, a little bit of my story, but it's really about why you should do better. And like our discussion was overall, right? Just your life and your business, and why they should talk to me because I've done certain things. I'm driven. I'm frustrated because of all the complaints and people say they can't do this and that. And I'm just like, can you just please listen to me? because, because there's actually a strategy, you
Well,
know?
thank you so much for
Yeah.
that because I'm sure you're going to get some traffic just because of this conversation. It's been a great
Mhm.
conversation. So thank you so much for everything and for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the Women in Dentistry podcast with Dr. MJ Hanlon. If you like our show and want to know more about us, check out our website, thewomenindentistry.com, or please leave us a review on iTunes. Join us for our next episode as we bring you another amazing woman leading the way for the next generation.